everyone, and welcome to this live class with my Russian teacher, Svetlana. And so we're going to be going through a presentation of about 5 key aspects that Russian learners need to know when you're starting out and as a beginner and getting pre-intermediate. So let me introduce you to Svetlana. So, привет, Svetlana. How are you?
Привет. Okay, I'm fine, thank you. And how are you?
Doing well, doing well. So I'm happy to connect with you again and be able to see your tips, advice for beginners. So this is something that I've been really interested in for the last couple of years. This has been like a challenge for me getting into the Russian language, and I think the things that are in this presentation are just everything that I wish I had known when I got started, because I think I just got kind of thrown in at the deep end and just had to start scrambling to figure out, like, how am I supposed to learn this language? It's there's the alphabet, there's these cases, there's just a lot of things to get your head around that you might not see in some other languages. So, okay, well, we're going to get started with the presentation here. And let me move share my screen here with you, and see if you can see the presentation. Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. So we're here now, we're here live. So I'll turn the mic over to you. Let me just make sure that the, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's on my screen. Cool. Can you say a few things? Let me just make sure that the video stays on the presentation.
Okay, today we will speak about some key aspects, not only for beginners, but for intermediate learners as well, and things that I consider very important in studying Russian. Okay, it's going good?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so let's move on. So, hi from us. And so who is Svetlana? So she's a Russian teacher. She's based in Ukraine, and she has a master's in education. She also teaches English, and along with Russian and Ukrainian. And I've taken lessons with her since last December and over the past few months this year, especially as I was taking part in the Language Heroes program on VK, and also in the Add One challenge with Brian Kwong and for Russian. And I needed some extra support, some extra help from a teacher, and so Svetlana has been very helpful for me in preparing like these grammar points and getting a lot of good practice. So yeah, I would really recommend her. She's a really good teacher, and so that's a little bit about Svetlana. And me, in case you're not familiar, I'm Jonathan. I'm from California, and I'm an ESL teacher. I teach also on Italki and on another platform as well. And I've been teaching for about 16 years now, teaching languages and teaching in the US, France, and Mexico. I love learning foreign languages, and mostly recently I've been learning Russian for about 4 or 5 years for now, and it's a challenge. It forces me to know a lot about the grammar but most importantly, I think speaking with a teacher online, speaking with somebody who's a native speaker really helps. And I also do a little bit of programming with web apps. So we'll recommend 2 of them that I've worked on for Russian within the presentation. We'll show you, mention a few things on that. So I'll turn it over now to Svetlana to get started.
Okay. So I will start from the mentioning that learning Russian to English-speaking person is a hot topic because Russian grammar is much different from the English. So, we have cases, of course. All the nouns have genders. They have numeral and cases. So you should remember about all these things and put them all together to make a normal sentence. Yes. So the good thing that in Russian we have only 3 tenses, but we have as well some other aspects, grammatical aspects as perfective, imperfective forms, and so on. Oh. Okay. Let's start with the first point here. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we'll move on to the pronunciation. Okay.
Yes, we will start from pronunciation. So, because when we start speaking to someone, the first impression is made by what we hear the first minute. So we won't be able to assess your level in general. So to say you're a beginner or advanced or intermediate, but what we hear is the sound of your voice. And we understand everything we hear, we can make some, I don't know, to understand if you're native or unnative. Yes, and Russian has some different sounds, and in my opinion, the hardest sound for non-Russian speakers sound "ı" when we speak about vowels, because all English-speaking people always confuse it with sound "e". So just one phrase and you understand it sounds unnative and unnatural, and well, in lots of cases, when we change the vowel, we change the meaning of the word. So it's even incorrect sentence in the end. Okay, but the hardest topic here is soft and hard consonants. It's what we don't have in English, but we have in Russian. So,
can you explain what that is? What is the difference between a hard and soft consonant?
Okay, we have, for example, okay, in English we have hard and soft when we speak about E sound. For example, me, we have soft me here, and for example, when we have my, the vowel m is hard here. So in Russian, we have a bigger number of the vowels that makes previous consonants soft. It will be ye, I, yo, you, and ya. So all the vowels, all these vowels, they make previous consonants sound soft. It's a big challenge for English-speaking people. They're not familiar with soft sounds. They do not understand how to pronounce them soft, and it makes lots of efforts to learn it.
But yeah, this is something that took me a little bit of time to get my head around, where like the vowel sounds are basically like there's the 5, like a, o, I, u, but when you add like a little y sound in front of each one of those vowels, you get these different letters. So it becomes ya, ye, yo, e, u, and then that has an effect on these consonants. So when you have those y sounds all associated with the consonants, then it becomes this soft sound. So it's still difficult to pronounce them and to hear
yes,
them.
it's difficult because you do not use them in English. You do not have them, and but in Russian, it has big importance. You know, for example, I don't know. We have lots of words that are that we can differ only by one sound. For example, rasa, the race. Rasa is the priest, Lord priest word. So it's and yes, the difference is big, and each sound matters.
Yeah, I think that's the difference with English. Yeah, because we have a tendency sometimes to just reduce the vowels and maybe not pay attention so much to this difference of like yeah.
Yes, because it's hard, and I notice that you know, like 95% of students, if they meet a hard topic, they prefer to avoid it. So they learn what is easier. For example, like reducing, it's easy actually, but with soft and hard sounds, so they just skip it and continue learning. But it's their tail, actually. It's tail, and it affects your speech. It doesn't matter how many rules you have learned, how many words, but this tail, it shows that you are not a proficient student, you're not advanced, not even upper intermediate. So it still keeps you on the lower level, no matter how hard you try. So yes, but if you want to improve your Russian, you should pay attention to this topic. The topic I'm sure you skipped once you have started learning Russian.
Yeah, this is definitely something I have to go back to little by little to kind of perfect the pronunciation. And can you say a little bit about the devoiced consonants, like at the end of the words?
Yes. Well, okay. What we have here. In the end of the word, in Russian, we have most of consonants sound like devoiced. So your voice going lower, and the last consonant is not, it sounds not clear. So for example, if you have, I don't know, like ded, so in Russian it will sound something like det. So not d, but t. So yes, and it can be a problem to English speaker as well, because you don't have any unvoiced consonant, and everything is voiced and stressed and should sound very clear. But yes, in Russian it's I don't know. It's natural, but I think if you're proficient and if you speak very, very fast, you will have it. You will have this even without much trying, because that's how the language sounds, I think. Yes, but
so what is the difference? What is the difference between this kind of voiced and voiceless consonants?
Okay, so first, the difference is how you make this consonant. So to pronounce, for example, voiced consonants, you use not only your lips, teeth, tongue, but also your voice. For example, like the difference between d, t. So to use d, I use my voice.
The vocal cords that they're vibrating.
Yes, yes. And but to say t, I use only my mouth apparate, but no voice here. So
okay, so those differences. So if I see a word that ends with like be, ve, ge, de, z, and j, it's probably going to become p, f, k, t, s, sh instead. So it's going to, it's not going to be using the vocal cord vibration anymore. It's going to be just with the mouth. Okay.
Yes, it just is the mouth. So difference between voice and voiceless. So for example, if you have, you have voiced and voiceless in pairs, difference between the pairs. So with the first one, you use, for example, the same position of tongue, the same position of teeth and lips, but with or without your voice. So, okay, you don't need to analyze this. You just need to understand that even in English, these sounds, they sound very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, yes. So they're very similar, and sometimes they can, they can be used one instead of the other.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing that I still have difficulties with is knowing when the vowel is going to be kind of reduced, like the letter O, whether it's an O or whether it's an ah. That's something I still struggle with. Like, so I might see a word like window, like OK and O, and I think it's just oak, no, and it's like, no, well, one of those is O, but the other one isn't. So it's that can be a little confusing, I think, for learners to know one is an O and one is it not. So that takes some time.
It takes well, if you study Russian, the problem is, for example, when you study English, you have transcription part in all the dictionaries. When you study Russian doesn't have transcriptions. But in my opinion, yes, to learn the word correctly, you should at least hear the sound. So nowadays in the internet, they have this function. You can hear the word and understand how it sounds and what is stressed, what is unstressed. If you see just the same окно written, you don't know what syllable is stressed. So, in your opinion, it can be any. Yes, but you should learn it right. And to learn it right, you should at least hear it once or see where the syllable is. So,
yeah, that's good advice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree, because if you just take a book or you take an article, you don't have those indications in the language. So you have to hear the language, how it sounds.
Yeah, especially when you meet the new words, because you'll need some help here to understand how they're read. So
cool. Okay, well, I think that's a brief introduction for some of the key aspects for the pronunciation. Let's move on to the next point then. I don't see any questions so far, so move on to the gender agreement. Okay. So
gender. Well, genders, basically you start learning them at the beginning. Yes? When you start just learning, yes. And I can see that now, I think everyone can define what gender is this. If you have some noun, for example, yes. For example, Hrusha, a pear. You can say that it's feminine. Yes, it has ending "a", so it's feminine. Everything's good. You can say it's number. Yes, it's singular. It's case. It's nominative. Her is good. But when we have adjective plus noun, so it's harder. It's not just to define the gender. You should define it for the noun and use the same gender, case, and number is adjective. And yes, it takes lots of analytical work, or it takes a lot of practice, even more practice actually. And here's the main problem, because though the topic is quite easy, but it's very hard to use it in your speech. Do you agree?
Yeah. I think it does take some repetition and a lot of practice. That's why I started to do some web programming to be able to have these kind of drills for putting adjectives with nouns together, and it's just a lot of repetitive work that you need to do before you speak, before you write, and just to get used to these endings. And because it's if you take English, for example, you just have one adjective and we don't change it for singular or plural, and we don't change it if a word is, I mean, we don't distinguish gender in the English language, but other languages, they do distinguish like masculine and masculine and feminine. So some of the Romance languages, they distinguish that. German also has neuter. So those are some things I was familiar with before I started with Russian, but still it feels like I have to memorize a lot of endings.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, not only endings, but the problem is, I don't know, even if everything is okay in nominative, yes. But when we start using different cases, so everything goes wrong. Yes, it's a problem, because I don't know. See, grammatical point is something you can't hide, because if you don't know some vocabulary, you can avoid some words, some phrases, you can replace them. If you don't know some grammatical rules, you can't replace them, actually. So, and cases is something you can't avoid if you speak Russian. So it's essential point here, yes. And
so
yes.
So yeah, at least
the only advice is just to practice and to not to be afraid to repeat this topic again, to go back to it again and again. So yes, it's hard, but it only means that you will need more time to cover it. So. Okay, can you say about your experience?
Yeah, I would say, well, the first step, like as an English speaker, learning the alphabet, getting used to reading the alphabet was a first step, and associating the sounds. And there's also some letters that we would interpret kind of wrong. So Like I would see the letter N or H in Russian, and I would think it's an H in English, and I would like, oh, why is that an N sound? Or I see the letter P or what's R in Russian, and I think it's a P. So there's some confusion on those letters, and then getting into the pronunciation, then getting some vocabulary, then putting this vocabulary together with the nouns and adjectives, and just only working in the nominative case. That took several months just to kind of get into the language, and so it's a language that kind of challenges learners. But once you get into it, it has its logic. It starts to feel normal. It starts to feel natural. But I mean, students that get that kind of sticker shock where you're like, what did I get into? It's not exactly the same as like Spanish, where the pronunciation might be very simple. There's no confusion on really the pronunciation. It's like you see it's kind of phonetic and you say it, and then there might be these masculine, feminine, but the pronunciation and it functions a bit similar, like in English where you add an S and it's plural, but for Russian you need to learn different endings for those. So it takes a little bit of some extra work, but it's doable. It's doable. And so with this chart that's on here, this is just the nominative case, and there's we're going to get there in a second. There's 6 cases, so there are some things that overlap, but you kind of have to take it in steps, take it in stages. And that's why I created this app, and you can see a link. You can go to tinyurl.com Russian agreement, and what I've done here is taken these vocabulary, typical, just basic A1 vocabulary, and you can test yourself, and you can specify everything here with whether it's masculine or neuter or feminine, if it's whether you're working with adjectives or without them, if you're just focusing on the nouns, if you're working with animate nouns, because that's another thing with one of the cases to be careful with. So there's a lot of aspects of this practice, and you can work on that, and you get instant feedback on whether the endings were correct. So it's a program that I've shared with a lot of fellow students, and they've recommended it, and they've said it's been very helpful for them to practice with.
Yes, it's true. But okay, it really takes practice. But everything takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, like going to the gym. I mean, you're not going to go to the Olympics if you don't go to the gym at least every day or practice. So something like this with the Russian, it's regular daily practice with this, and it does get easier over time. It does get easier.
Yes, well, we shouldn't forget that learning English is learning any language is fun. It's like going to the gym. Yes, it's not something that I don't know, that crucifies you. It's something that you do as your hobby. It's something you should like doing. So it's not. Some topics can be harder, but not that hard really.
They're just pieces of a puzzle, and you're trying to kind of figure out how this works, so you can start building a sentence. That's the cases. So, what are cases?
Okay, cases. Cases is a special structure of the language. So we use different ending of the word to change grammatical meaning of the noun. In English, we don't have cases actually, but you see, the same meaning we can make using different prepositions. So in Russian, we do not use prepositions in most words, but we use endings. So to make, you see, in Russian, for example, we have two meanings. So we have lexical meaning and we have grammatical meaning. So to reach this grammatical meaning, we use the ending. So, and here the ending is very important because, I don't know, if I change it, I change the meaning of the sentence. For example, I can say, okay, some sentences and you can translate them if you like.
Sure.
Okay, for example, if I say, я пишу ручка.
That's almost, isn't it wrong, isn't it? It's like I write pencil.
Yes, but a pen. I write,
sorry, a pen.
It's, okay, here it will be like a phrase. I write a phrase, a pen. Yes. So, and if I say, я пишу ручкой, so it means
now it's correct. Yeah.
I write with a pen. Yes. For example, я пишу, I don't know, я пишу о ручке.
Yeah, what is that? Ручки?
О ручке.
Ручки.
I write
what?
about.
Yes, okay, with rучки. Okay. Yeah, I'm listening to that and trying to interpret it. So this is a good example where you have to listen to the ending of a noun, and based on that ending, you can interpret what the sentence is, how that word is being used. So
yes, that's why cases are very important, because cases change the meaning. And if you want to understand your Russian-speaking partner correctly, if you want to make normal sentences, so you should be familiar with cases. So it's true.
So the nominative is generally the subject of the sentence?
Yes, it's the subject. So we have genitive. So, and genitive will have has lots of meaning: possession, origin, absence of something, and so on. Dative, I would say indirect object. So if you give something to someone, yes. Accusative, it's direct object. So instrumental, it use an instrument we use to make something. And prepositional, yes, it has, it shows location, place, and so on. And in 100%, it is used with preposition. Yes.
Yeah, so what you were just mentioning there of like, I write with a pencil or I write with a pen, that's the instrumental, like that's the instrument that you were doing.
Yes, it's
and
instrument.
When you said
Yes, exactly. But you see, all the cases, so they have more than one meaning. So, yeah, except for nominative, okay. So you should spend at least some time at learning every case one after the other, but in the end you have the whole picture, and it works.
Yeah, and so the cases, it's only half the situation. I mean, you have these nouns and adjectives in these different cases, but you also need to learn the conjugations with the verbs. So we'll take a look at that now a little bit. So hang in there, don't give up. It's not as bad as it sounds. I mean, at least with the cases, if they are rather complex or they have a lot of details, at least the verbs in Russian are a little bit simpler if you compare them to the English tense system, which has like 12 different tenses. Russian basically just has 6, or
no,
basically the 3 for present, past,
3
future,
tenses.
but you have the aspect of the verb, imperfective, perfective. So that kind of overlaps a little bit sometimes with the English verb system, where whether something is finished or not finished or in progress, or it's complex, but it's a lot simpler than the cases. So.
Yeah, so actually cases is the hardest point, in my opinion. Yes, but and actually I think verb conjugation is not that hard, because so it has 1 or 2 rules for each topic, and you just need to learn how to apply it and to practice. So I can say that even the beginning students are not that bad in conjugation, and if they practice, they have good results. So the problem is not that it's hard. The problem is that most students avoid learning grammar, and actually that's why we speak about grammar so much. And yes, we should repeat that grammar is important. Grammar is important. But everyone understands that that lexic is important. That demanding is vocabulary is important, but vocabulary is not enough.
Exactly.
To be honest, I consider like conjugation in present very simple topic. Actually, to be honest, it's not that hard. When we go to the past tense, for example, we should remember genders again and use them again. Yes, so when we speak about past, we should remember what gender we want to define here.
Yeah, it functions like an adjective in that case.
Not exactly, yes, but in genders,
in the spelling.
Yes, yes, with the, if you think about the ending, so the endings are similar, but it's still a verb with its function. Yes, but something I like. So if you learned genders before, you'll have no problems with the past time, actually. So it's good that just like in English, some rules are similar, and it makes learning easier. Yeah.
The future tense gets into more of knowing the aspects of these verbs. Can you explain this a little bit of what is this difference between aspect of like perfective and imperfective?
Imperfective. Okay, so to learn the difference, you should remember English a little. So with perfective, we have meaning like in English perfect time. So that some actions that has been completed. So, for example, and imperfective, it's action that was in progress but was not completed, or it doesn't matter if it was completed at all. For example, if you say "Я писала письмо," it's like I was writing a letter. So I was writing, yes, I was in progress, but the letter is not finished. If I say, for example, "Я написала письмо," it will be perfective. Means I have written a letter.
And so, it's finished. Okay.
Yes, it's finished. So we don't use different times in Russian, yes, but still we want to show different shades of meanings and all this, I don't know, variety of meanings. But only in Russian we use another tools. So we don't have many times, but we have aspects. And these aspects have the same meaning as, for example, past continuous or present perfect. Okay.
I do feel that there is sometimes when I'm thinking like the imperfective in the past, it does kind of feel like the past continuous, like what you're saying, like I was writing a letter.
Yeah, so
I didn't finish it was interrupted.
Yes. So very often to translate such sentences into Russian, for example, you will use present perfect or past continuous because the meaning is very similar or the same even. So, yes, and we should also remember that we have this perfective only in past and future.
Yeah, because you can't finish something in the present.
In present, yes. So in the present, I don't know. For example, if you translate it as present continuous, yes, so it will be only like I am writing. So you're in a progress, yes. So you can say only "Я пишу письмо." It's only progress, yes. It's action in progress. You can't have any result here.
Okay.
Yes.
And for the future, we can have both. We can have the perfective and imperfective.
Future, of course, we can have perfective, imperfective, just the same as in English, to make different shades, to make different meanings. Like, for example, I don't know, я буду писать письмо, just I will write it, или я напишу, I will have written it. Yes. So I will complete writing.
So it's kind of my intention that I plan to finish writing this. It's not just something in progress.
Not only I want to write because I don't know. Yes, if I want to say only my intention to write, we'll say я буду писать. So it's only action in progress. We don't want to emphasize any result here. If you want to emphasize the result, we should use perfective form here.
I think it's also important to mention that with the construction for the future tense, the imperfective verbs have an auxiliary and the infinitive. So this kind of budu, budish, budit, budiem, buditye, budut, and then the infinitive. So that's kind of like something in progress. And I think the perfective, it's just the one verb by itself.
It's one
usually,
one verb with prefix. Yes.
Usually with the prefix.
Yes, and now the problem here is that for most students it's much easier to make imperfective form. It's very easy. Буду plus infinitive. And to make perfective, you should learn some prefixes and their meanings, of course. So it takes more work, actually, and it's harder. That's why I don't know. Very often I hear bad structures, like this. I don't know. For example, завтра моя подруга будет ехать ко мне в гости. So,
like tomorrow, my friend is going to.
Yes, my friend is going to come, but here we should use моя подруга приедет.
Okay, so, yeah, that's a different prefix, and then it's a movement verb.
Yes, it's prefix, so rather it's prefix. It's harder to use, of course. So you should remember prefixes as well here. That's why, yes.
So this is again why with some of my programming, I created like a sentence generator, and this is primarily working with the conjugations. So it's basically a conjugator. So it has all these things: the subject, the verb, and as you can see slightly in the picture, there's like there's an indication that whether a verb is imperfective or perfective, and you can test yourself on these different tenses in the future. You can test yourself on like questions, negative, affirmative, and translations of how would you, what is their general meaning, not the complete sentence conjugation, but so this has been helpful. So between this one, the conjugator, and the other one for the nouns and adjectives, you get a pretty good workout for before you're going to start speaking, and before these are some things you can work on independently. And I think some of my fellow Russian learning friends, they've said it.
Yes, any practice is good, and I think we should use all the tools we can find, because I know we all want to speak, but pure speaking is not, well, it's not the brilliant idea, because if you have problems with grammar, you should at least turn around and have some, I don't know, some look at the grammar again. So, yes.
Yeah, you can't escape grammar with Russian. I mean, if you want to be understood.
With all tenses, with English as well. So, if you want to speak, you should refresh grammar before you speak. So, if you have some mistakes in speaking, you should just I don't know, just take some notes and go back to this topic again. So that's the only way it works, to be honest.
Okay, and the last point on here, which really surprised me, were these. Coming from English, I just want to say the verb go. Say, I'm going to go to the movies. I'm going to go to my friend's house. I'm going to go for a walk. And for me, it's just one verb. And I think what I've seen in some of the Romance languages as well, just there's one verb for to go. But in Russian, it almost feels like when people talk about snow for the Eskimos, where it's like there isn't just one word for snow. There's many words.
Many
for
words, and yes, different kind of snow, like wet snow and dry snow, and snow is falling. Yes.
So with the verbs in Russian, you kind of need to know what kind of an action you're doing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
Okay, it's okay. In English, you should first say is or using some vehicles, and that will be two different verbs. For example, идти is to use your food. Ехать is to use some vehicle or a horse. Yes. And what else here? With movement words, very important will be what we want to say, if it is definite or indefinite meaning. So with definite meaning, it's movement that goes one direction or one time. For example, if I say я иду в парк, so it will be like to park. Yes, I'm going now. If I want to say I go to park every day, use another verb here. And for example, with go it will be ходить. Я хожу в парк. Yes. So it's very interesting point here, because only with movement verbs we have two different verbs, and they have definite or indefinite meaning. So
and furthermore, there's the prefixes. So it's just detail after detail. So it's on foot, by vehicle, and then you're going now, or you go there like regularly, and then how do the prefixes work as well?
Prefixes, they modify the meaning. So if you want to I don't know, for example, я хожу, I go every day, yes. If you want to say I come to some point, it will be я прихожу. Yes, we use.
Yeah, I guess you can compare this a little bit to like phrasal verbs in English, where like go to, or go around, or go from, or go in.
Yes.
So.
Yes, but
the
here we use
based on that.
Yeah, the meaning changes, but in Russian we use prefixes.
Instead of as just a preposition.
Instead of preposition, but yes, actually, the good news here is that the meaning of the prefixes is the same. So if you learn prefixes just for one verb, for other verbs, they will have the same meaning. Yeah,
that is true. Like, yeah, you can once you see that relationship, you can apply that to many verbs.
You can, yes. So, for example, if you learn prefixes for the verb ходить, you can use them for all the other movement verbs, and
yes. So let's take a look at a small table. So this is just to go on foot, but so I need to know if like in this one that says like imperfective definite, this is like present tense. I'm going now. Idu, yeah, idu. I'm going now.
Yes, I'm going now.
And on the other one, imperfective indefinite, hadith, yeah, haju, that's like I go on a regular basis.
I go regular basis, and as well, so like different directions. So I go here and go back, or I don't know, just like this. If you say I go to work every day, it means I go to work and I go back. Yes? And you return home every day. Yes. If you say, for example, only я иду, it's like I'm going to this direction right now. So it's only one direction. For example, я иду на работу. So it means from your home to your office. Only this. If you say я иду домой, it means from your office to your house. Only one direction here, yes. And just the same with all the other movement verbs. So, okay, what will...
And to get the perfective, I would add this prefix of, like, for example, pa, like in the past, pashol, or in the future, paidu, and I would be like, I will go to the office tomorrow.
Yes, да. Я пойду на работу завтра.
And yes. I'm like, tomorrow I'm going to the office and coming back. Я буду ходить.
Yes, я буду ходить. For example, even it will be better if you say, I don't know, like in this. Я буду ходить на работу в 8 утра. So, yes, in future I will go, right? I will regularly go there at 8 p.m. Just something like this. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is, to be honest, this is something I still need to review constantly at, like, what I feel is kind of an intermediate level, because this is such a rich topic. So I think a lot of students, they want to make a mention of, like, hey, I'm going somewhere. And I think some teachers say, oh, be careful. That's too complicated, or that's a bit advanced. And you're like, the verb to go is advanced. And it's like, unfortunately, yes, this is a bit of an advanced topic in the language.
Yes. Yeah. All these movement verbs, and you know, like it's very hard to explain to beginners. So why we have two, for example, two verbs for one meaning, like I don't know, like идти и ходить. So it's the same, to go, but different shades of meaning. Yes.
Yeah, I almost feel it's like ordering coffee in a restaurant or ordering coffee at Starbucks, where it's like, oh, you want a coffee? Well, what kind of a coffee do you want? Do you want a tall? Do you want is it the alto, tall, venti? Do you want it with milk? Okay, what kind of milk do you want? Do you want half and half? Do you want whole? Do you want almond milk? Do you want an extra espresso shot? It's like, I just want a coffee. And they're like, no, you need to specify all these details. And so I think sometimes with these movement verbs in Russian, it's like you have to specify what kind of movement you want here.
To be honest, it's not beginning level. It's maybe intermediate or upper intermediate level, to be honest. But
it is essential to know that it exists.
It is essential because we speak about it because all the students make mistake here. So even if you are maybe intermediate or pre-intermediate and you think, oh, I'm cool, so I can speak, but people still make lots of mistakes here. And if you want to sound advanced or upper intermediate, or at least if you want to sound good, you should pay attention to this topic, even if you think you're very good in Russian. So, because even if you're very good, you have some some weak points, and actually movement words is it's one of the points where everyone have mistakes.
Okay. Cool. So I think if you have questions, I mean, we've covered the pronunciation, the fact that there's the genders and the agreement with the nouns, the adjectives, then getting into the verb conjugations, and along with those verb conjugations, the aspects, imperfective, perfective, and when you're using those in the tenses, and then this last section with the movement verbs. So there's a lot of content there. There's a lot, but it helps to get the big picture when you're starting a language like Russian. And I wish I had known a lot of this before I got started, to know like where do I need to focus my energy, where's
yes, because sometimes you have like easy topics, and we don't stop on them because they're easy. So once you read the rule, you can use it, and that's good, of course. But there are hard topics, and it's not enough to learn these rules only once, or to learn and make some exercises. So you need to go back to them again and again, and practice, not only with grammar exercises, but practice making your own sentences and start, making your own phrases, start speaking using these phrases, yes. And that's how you will get better.
Cool. So thank you very much for explaining these details. I think this is a really helpful for the students, and to get your feedback. And so, as I mentioned before, I've taken lessons with Svetlana, and she's been very helpful. We've gotten a lot of good practice sessions, and so I would highly recommend taking some lessons with her. So above and below the video, you'll see a button to go to her profile for on Italki, and you can see for her availability and when she the pricing packages. And so thank you very much for that.
Okay, and thank you, Jonathan, for doing such a good job, for making different materials for new learners and for students who need some advices. Because when you study something, it's very good, to not just to use grammar books, but to have experience from other students, to know you're not alone in this.
Yeah, definitely. I think with support groups and communicating with like students who've been there before, like I remember when I got started like 4 years ago, and I was in level 1 in this school, and I asked a couple students who I met, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm in level 6, and they just, for me, they looked like they were these all-stars, like if they were like Olympic champions. I was like, you're in level 6? Like,
yes, how did you manage?
How did you get that? I'm like, I'm struggling so much on this level 1, and they're like, don't worry, you'll get there eventually, just like stick with it. Yeah,
just don't worry, level 2 and 3 will be much harder. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, but at least they were like, just stay with it, and so I would definitely recommend being able to speak with a native speaker, a teacher, as soon as possible. Really helps you kind of put this stuff into practice and be able to ask these questions. And because if you're just sitting there with a grammar book by yourself, it can get kind of boring, or it can get kind of frustrating. And I think the people who are able to kind of stick with this, especially with Russian, are people who just don't give up. So definitely if you're struggling with it, don't do it alone, and take some lessons, and definitely with Svetlana. So thank you again for participating, and thank you everyone who's had a chance to stick with us with this video and with this live class. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for watching, and I'll leave a link to Svetlana's profile so you can go check that out. So thank you again, and we'll wrap it up here.
Thank you, and bye.
Bye.